Namaskar and good evening, everyone. I am Mythili Zatakia. I am a dancer, a classical ballet and Bharatanatyam dancer in particular. These are two classical art forms and they reside at two very opposite ends of a very wide spectrum of dance styles. And they have enabled me to dance plenty of other dance styles along that spectrum. It's been a decade since I began introducing myself in this way. My speech is long, but I know you're with me. It's also been a decade since I decided this is the foremost way in which I'd like to be introduced. I am a dancer, nothing more. It's different, isn't it? So that's exactly what I decided to change. The very idea, the very reality, that in India, a land so historic and historically cultural, there aren't enough professional dancers amongst us. The definition of a professional dancer, one I attribute to my guru of Indian classical dance, Dr. Rathna Kumar, is a dancer who, when she dances any form, can make it look like her core form. A body in which technique, grace, and artistry meet to create ephemeral moments that last in our memory eternally. Sure, dancing is a celebration. It's a means of expression. It's human to dance. But here's the dark truth as I realized it. It is not human to be a professional dancer. It requires superhuman anatomical makeup, by which I mean you have to be a beast in your body. Strength, stamina, grace, mobility, agility, control, balance-wise. It requires a very powerful mosaic of the mind, by which I mean you have to be interested in, informed, and fueled by multiple areas of study. It requires spiritual elevation, without which it would be close to impossible to rationalize the thresholds of pain that we transcend in physical practice. It requires vulnerability, the kind that I'm also very fortunate to experience as a woman. Now, with clarity on the distinctive frameworks, I'd like to now proceed to tell you my Eureka, which is that I never should have chosen to be a professional dancer. No, frankly, I don't remember that it was a choice. Careers are chosen, passions are not, loves are not, destiny is not. And I do believe that destiny is what has made me a dancer and kept me dancing and brought me my calling for what I'd like to do with this beautiful, beautiful, immeasurable art form. My mojo came to me most organically in a way that consolidated all my other interests, pursuits, and strengths. Academia, activism, theater, and sport. So, as I was saying, a little over a decade ago, I made the decision to be a professional dancer. And as reassured as I now sound, that wasn't the reality back then. And as firm as my decision was, I realized that I'd have to adapt my dancer-like flexibility and agility to life. Because nothing exists in absolutes, because if you don't bend, you break. The smack of reality of being and becoming a dancer was right here in my face from the very start. I was fresh out of high school, enrolled into law school, bored out of my mind, wondering why on earth I had decided to put myself through what is arguably the most unimaginative curriculum on earth. No offense to all the lawyers in the crowd. So I was enrolled into law school until one night I walked up to my father and point blank went to him and said, "Dad, I think I'm going to quit law school and focus on my career as a dancer entirely." My father, who was seemingly unfazed. He put up a very good act, I must say, and I think that's where I get my performance persona from. Said to me in clear words, well, you seem to have made up your mind. I don't think anything will change your decision. But if this is what you want to do, figure out how you're going to fund your dance education. If you can fund yourself at the developmental stage, I'll feel more confident that you can turn this into a lucrative profession for yourself going forward. So that was that. And he ended this very stoic speech by saying, if not, you'll have to draw that line between passion and profession. And so in the dead of a midsummer night in my home city of Bombay, I went for a very long run. Did I have ideas that would change my life on that run? No. Did I decode my next move? No. Did I come back and fall into the deepest sleep ever? Yes. Because sometimes, believe it or not, a long run is definitely the cure for a brain and body that is constantly on a sprint. I think my Eureka may have begun to come to me that night on the run and when I woke up the next morning, because I think I literally woke up to life. The confidence of my declaration the previous night had quickly faded into a cloud of self-doubt, anger, loneliness, and I had no idea how I was going to do this. But there was another realization, that life is not linear, that I would need to make a diversion to get back on track towards my dream. And the detour would involve some time off to raise the funds for that global dance education that I was after. Nothing less. So, upon my entry into adulthood, which is meant to be the most crucial time for a dancer in training, I decided to take a year off and build a startup, Shout, a journalism network, a journalism collective online, which encouraged and invited anyone, young or old, to publish offbeat, off-the-cuff opinions on the global state of affairs. It seemed like the perfect fit for my opinionated mind and mouth. Nothing's changed. Those that cared to know more subscribed, and voila, that paid for my dance education. This, of course, is an oversimplification of the story. There was plenty of collateral beauty and brain damage along the way, but I met some amazing people who became part of Team Shout or contributed through words, support, and action, and who have convinced me to this day that your network is indeed your net worth. I was constantly reconciling with the college dropout tag that I had brought upon myself, and I felt answerable to people who thought they could blatantly pass judgment on my rash, impulsive, impractical decision to be a dancer. But then again, in and within this journey of building self-belief, I think I may have studied more than I ever did in a structured curriculum. And that was empowering. I was able to hold conversations in different spheres and settings, and I might have even become a better listener. All qualities that I that I realized would fuel my journey as a dancer, and I say this with all humility, a dance leader. In 2019, right before the pandemic shook our world, my world had already experienced tremors. I was on a flight back from Houston, Texas, where my guru of Indian classical dance resides, and where I have trained in multiple dance forms over the years. So I was on a flight back, weeping, very controlled, with very dancer-like restraint, because I had only just said my final goodbyes to my dearest aunt, whom we lost to cancer soon after. My aunt, who I often describe as the most potent moral force in my life, and who, along with my mother, has been the most influential and instrumental in my journey as a dancer, bade me farewell, with 2 leotards that she had purchased online on her deathbed, and a dying wish that I would live out every dream that she has seen for me as a dancer. A dream which amply included the spread of dance, as well as the very personal journey that I would make with it. I learned as I was breaking down up in the air that death is definitely more final than life. It's more decisive. If ever in the course of my life I reached a point where I didn't want to live out my dream, I would inevitably have to live out my aunt's dying wish. I was stuck. This was it. And I'll be honest, I cried a little bit for myself as well. There, we have it. My Eureka. The death of something is almost always the birth of something else. Janoon, something we know today as a foundation for the classical arts, was born right when I stepped onto the tarmac in Bombay. For a while thereafter, a year and a half to be specific, through the pandemic and after that, I dived into a deep, deep theoretical study and physical practice to build the core of Janoon. I think this may have been the most productive phase in my life. Grief can do that. I had a challenge to show up to. I needed to professionalize my art and pass it on to so many more who were possibly more deserving than me. Janoon went on floors in September of 2021 in the only way that I would have it, with a social objective first. We began our first rural outreach in the remote village of Saurashtra in Gujarat with 16 girls who came into session with me after I had gone into every single village home to convince families to send their children to me. We have grown into hundreds of children since, children and women. And in January 2025, we launched our first ever academy in the spot where it all began, in Dhasa. In the little over 4 years that Janoon has been around, I have worked in the interiors of Saurashtra, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu. In tandem with and under protection of the great Indian Army, I have found myself in one of the most threatened regions on earth, Baramulla in Kashmir, taking the joy of classical dance to women and girls, to their already gritty lives. The dance was going everywhere it hadn't, and it was going to those that had little or no exposure to it, albeit they did have the talent, which was finally being tapped into. I've had the privilege of working and performing with the differently abled in Azerbaijan, through artistic residencies, and this has taught me that dance is indeed a universal language with universal access and reach. I've had the support and training of mentors in Turkey, in the United Kingdom, in the United States, and presented Janoon's artistic, athletic, wholesome curriculum to some of the most prestigious universities around the world. A curriculum that is seeped, incidentally, in India's historic Gurukul tradition. As we went about achieving our social objectives, the commercial opportunities for Janoon opened up as well. From the word go, every single time we have worked with the privileged, we have said no to unpaid work. A dancer would be fairly compensated for their life and work and life's work. We began to run fellowships and intensives and workshops and curate our very targeted spread of the classical arts to the needs and establishments of the events and establishments that we have collaborated with. And it's not so lonely anymore. With a team of girls and women across generations, I have enough shoulders to cry on and enough ears to blow off steam to every now and then. We made a breakthrough on the performance side of things when on the 17th of September 2025, our first ever production, Kaya, was staged at the historic National Center for Performing Arts in Bombay. It announced our arrival as a production house, and it honored the very vital, most vital instrument of a dancer, her body. When I struck my final pose, after performing 3 diverse dance forms, Bharatanatyam, Classical Ballet, and Contemporary dance in 3 separate acts for 75 minutes straight, tears streamed down my eyes. Quite like the tears I had cried on that flight back from Houston when I said my final goodbye to my aunt. This is what it was all about. I had given this moment my all my Janoon. This dance had ended. But the death of something is almost always the birth of something else. That's life. That's dance, and my Eureka keeps coming back to me as I take my next steps forward, as we take our next steps forward as a foundation. My passion is my profession. Dad, I hope you're listening. I'm not as angry. I'm greedy, but I'm grateful, and I think that's a good place to be. Building a head of steam and believing in destiny. I am Mythili Zatakia. I am a dancer, and I'm the founder of Janoon. That's all. Thank you so much.